Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be sharing with you a cake design that I am going to do. So if you've been following me for a while, you might know that I have been making cakes for like friends and family for the last 15 years. It basically started when I had my son and he needed birthday cakes. I started making cakes and I just do them every so often for people who I'm close with, but a friend of mine's daughter just graduated high school, so I'm gonna do her cake. It's not going to be like a traditional graduation cake. I'm actually going to paint on this. I've never painted a cake before, but I have a couple of videos where I have done like watercolor paintings on paper. So I'm gonna kind of try to do something similar to that with a cake. So it's kind of an experiment, but I'm hoping it goes really well. I'm just going to take you along with me and show you how I do it so that if you're interested in making cakes, painting on cakes, you can kind of learn a little bit. If it's a total fail, then you can kind of laugh along with me, but hopefully it turns out really great. I have like a design kind of in my head. I am going to do her college colors, which is black, white, and red, but that's really the only guidance I have gotten as far as what they want for a cake. So it's kind of just up to me, and like I know what I want to do. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay guys, so the first thing I'm going to do is stack my cake. So I made 3 of these 6-inch cakes. They're probably 2 inches thick. I'm just going to cut them in half and try to even them out the best I can. Normally I only use 2 of these 6-inch cakes to do like a tier, but this cake I wanted to be taller because I wanted more room to paint on it, if that makes sense. So this is a first for me. If I had it to redo, if you're looking for advice, after the 3rd layer, I would have put another cake board and then done the other 3 on top of it, because with the height, it like had to have been terribly awkward to cut into pieces for people. So it would have been nicer, I think, for whoever was serving it to like hit a cake board halfway down and just like serve the top half and then serve the bottom half after the top half was gone. So that was my bad, but hopefully you can learn from my mistake. So once these are all stacked, I'm kind of just looking to see if I want that 6th layer right there, because I have a ribbon that I already had and I wanted to use. So that was why I was doing that. But once these are all stacked, I'm going to go ahead and do a crumb coat on it. A second thing that I would mention, because I didn't use the cake board and my buttercream is pretty soft, it made my cake just a little bit wobbly. So if you're like me and you don't use a cake board in between, just make sure you have a stiffer buttercream. You just get that by adding more powdered sugar into your icing. But with it being like soft like that, it just kind of wanted to move around more than I wanted it to. But once my crumb coat's on, I'm just going to go ahead and smooth this up, and then I'm going to let it sit in the refrigerator for a couple of hours to get like cold and easier to work with. Now that it has like cooled down or whatever, I'm gonna go ahead and work with the fondant. This is just homemade fondant. It's very, very easy. It is marshmallows and powdered sugar. That's it. And so I'm gonna roll it out. I just have this Wilton rolling pin that like lets you do a certain thickness based on the rings that are on the rolling pin, which is what those yellow things are. My fondant was a little bit sticky still. So again, if I was to redo this, I probably would have added more powdered sugar to my fondant just to make it like more stiff. You'll see in a minute when I put it on that it just drags on the cake and it ends up getting too thin. I don't think I would have had that much of a problem if my fondant had been just a little less sticky and a little bit more stiff, if that makes sense. So before I start painting, I wanted to kind of walk you through the process. Obviously you saw me cover the cake in fondant. This is the first time I've done a tall cake like this. The fondant got thinner than what I wanted to, especially with a chocolate cake, because you can kind of see the chocolate through it. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. With the rolling pin that I have, there's like rubber pieces that you stick on it, and I did the tallest ones like to get the thickest fondant when I rolled it out, but it probably just wasn't thick enough for this tall cake. Like I said, it's the first time I've ever done that, so I wasn't anticipating that. And the fondant gets heavy, you know, gravity. Like I said, I'm not that worried about it, but if you are like making a tall cake, just keep that in mind that you probably want your fondant thicker. I think mine was probably around 1/4 of an inch, I think is the thickness. So try to make it a little bit thicker than that, or maybe work faster than what I did, because as it sat on there, it just kept going. But I'm gonna go ahead and paint it before like I put that ribbon piece on, and I'm a little nervous because I'm doing this on cake, so it's not like I can erase it like I could with like a regular painting. I can't really sketch it out because I can't use a pencil, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do this. But for the paints, I'm obviously just using food coloring. So I have all my food coloring sitting here, and then I have a palette. It's just like a little plastic palette from the Dollar Tree. Like you can use one of these, but just make sure that you only use it for like cakes, food coloring, food stuff. Never use paint with it. So this is like a completely separate palette from anything that I would use with actual paints. Same thing with the paint brushes. I just have a couple of craft brushes that will never ever touch paint. They will only ever touch my food coloring. So I put my, I just did vodka in my paint palette, which you just saw, and I'm gonna mix in my food coloring, the colors that I'm gonna use, and I'm gonna kind of test it out on this spare piece of fondant. Let me kind of show you here. I just have an extra piece that came off from when I did the cake, and I'm gonna test the colors first before I put them on the cake. That way I make sure I'm getting what I want, and also it'll give me a spot to like get the excess color off before I paint the cake. It's gonna be kind of a slow process, but I'll fast forward so you don't have to like watch all the tedious details, but hopefully it kind of gives you an idea. I hope this turns out good, because it's like I have a vision in my head and I'm not sure what exactly it's going to be like. I did just look up this, like I looked up watercolors from Pinterest or whatever, and this is the one I found that I liked the best. She's blonde, so I'll have to change the hair, and I have a couple of pictures I'm gonna scroll through and I might mix and match. But I liked the dress. I do not like the legs and the heels, so I kind of want to cut her off like this, but I do like the cap and gown and the flowers. So I'm going to kind of play with it and the coloring, and we'll see how well I can get it to look. But that's the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and start playing with the colors, see if I can't get this to work. So like I said, my alcohol is already in my paint tray, so I am just going to try to work with these and figure out my colors. I want this to be red because my colors are red, black, and white for this cake. So I'm taking my Wilton red and trying to get a color. It just ended up kind of orangey pink, which I wasn't a huge fan of, so I pulled out the Wilton burgundy color. I'm not even sure if that's the actual name of it, but that's the kind it is. And I was trying to mix the two and just see which red or what color of red was working the best. And I ended up trying to mix red and the burgundy together. And then I'm also going to try red with black to try to get an even deeper red, because I'm just wanting a good like deep color. I can work with the light red as well, but I need like deep colors while I'm painting too, for dimension, if that makes sense. So that is what I'm doing. I'm just playing with all the colors, and actually you won't see it with the other colors I use on the cake, but I do the exact same thing for like the greens and the yellows and things. I just didn't show it because I had already showed the process. So what I decided to do here was go ahead and just take a wet paintbrush and outline my drawing. So since I can't use a pencil, it's a cake, I thought water might work because it just gives a sheen and I can see it, but it's also not going to be noticeable on the cake. So I was able to sketch out my girl on the cake just using a wet paintbrush. And now I'm going to go ahead and paint. I am starting with the lightest red, and I'm going to build up from there. But I'm also going to stop talking so you can kind of just watch. This is like my favorite part, is just watching a painting come together. I realized I said I was going to be quiet so you could just watch, but I did want to mention, to get the nice saturated colors, I dipped my brush directly into the alcohol and then into the food coloring itself in order to get that bright, rich color. Mixing, I mean, it's just like watercolors. I feel like when you want a really solid, like bright color, you're gonna need less water and more paint, and it's the same thing with the food colorings. So that's why I did it that way. So I hope that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, if you're like looking to do something like this, please mention them in the comments. I try to get back to all of my comments. I would love to answer any questions you have. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever done this, so it's not like I'm some sort of expert, but I can at least tell you what I did and what worked for me. Since I have the outline of the dress and the girl, like the hair and stuff like that, I want that stuff to kind of dry off for a little bit before I go back in and do some more like depth stuff. So I'm going to work on the flowers. I'm doing the same thing, starting with the lighter colors and building up. I am only using those 2 shades of red, which are the red and the burgundy, but I'm just doing different concentrations of the actual food coloring, if that makes sense. So, you know, more alcohol means like a lighter color, and less alcohol and more food coloring means a darker color. And so I'm just like building it up basically, and I'm going to do the same thing for the greens. I'm using a lime green, and then I think it's like a hunter green. I'm not sure the exact names, but I will list those in the description box below just in case you want them for reference if you're looking to paint a cake yourself. At least you'll have that information. on my line over here to the side of the dress. I don't know how well you can tell, but in order to fix that, what I did was I cleaned off my brush and then I dipped it in water and then just kept running it along that line. And like after I would run it along the line, I would then wipe off my brush, add more water, and keep doing it until I thinned out the line well enough. And then I just ended up adding a little bit more red back in where I had taken off some food coloring. I don't think you can get the food coloring all the way out, like there's no way to really erase, but I do think that you can probably hide mistakes kind of like I just did. I don't know that it's a very forgiving medium, but if you like to paint, it's still fun to try. So she's all done and I love her, but now I'm gonna go ahead and add the finishing touches to the cake. I have this ribbon, it's just I think Wilton brand. I got it years ago and have been wanting like a cake to use it on, but I thought this was perfect. I felt like it was really this family's style. And actually, if you want to see the like picture of the cake at the party, go over to my Instagram. It's like listed in my description box below. I have a picture of it on there. It went with the party decor like we planned it, and we didn't. But anyways, I made this little Anna sign just on my silhouette machine, and then I'm just taking some silk roses and some silk like baby's breath, and I'm just going to make a flower arrangement kind of going down the side on the left of the cake, and then also a little bit at the right where those rhinestones are. I just love flowers on a cake, and this is something I feel like I always do for Anna. Whenever I make her a cake, I always include flowers just because they're so beautiful. There's something about flowers on a cake that just I love. I have done a lot of sugar flowers in the past, but I just feel like for time purposes and what this is for, silk or even real are great. I usually do sugar flowers for things like a wedding cake or a wedding shower cake, something that's just a little bit more like detail involved, if that makes sense. But here is the finished cake. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and let me know. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a video. I am always posting new content. I would love to have you here. And with that being said, I will see you guys in my next video.